All right, well, welcome back to another episode. Heather, thanks for joining me again.
Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Awesome. Today we're going to jump into our cloning feature. A big part of the job for our account managers and our event owners, once they run their amazing event, is standing their organization back up for the next year. And for a lot of our event owners now, we're not talking about one or two events. We're talking about 30, 50, hundreds of events.
Hundreds, lots of events across the board.
And in order to keep up with that pace, we've done a lot of work with our clone event feature. And what this feature allows us to do is create events, basically a copy of last year. So you get your base, you get your structure, and then there's that custom tweaking that you can do that, again, allows you to go from no event to a bunch of events in a very short matter of time.
Exactly. Makes renewals really easy.
Amazing. So I know you, again, take a lot of this on with your clients and work day in and day out in this tool. So excited for you to walk me through kind of how it works and the benefits it gives to our partners.
Awesome. Let's get into it.
Amazing. Awesome. So starting in the Manage Events page, what's your workflow?
So my workflow is when we wrap up an event for a year and we're talking about renewals for next year. Cloning an event for the next year is really, really simple. So it's a matter of finding the event that just passed, clicking on the three dots on this right-hand side there, and you'll see Clone Event. So we'll just click on that, Brandon. That will bring us into our workflow for how we clone events for the following year. So this is a really easy process. We'll walk you through every step of the way. So the first page here will update our event name and input all of our relevant details, such as region, sport type, making sure we're setting the new start date and end date for the new event that's coming up. I'll let you catch up here.
Awesome. Well, and I think as we work through this, a couple of things that will pop out. Number one, the region. Maybe walk me through what that means and how our event owners use region.
Yeah, so region is something that can be completely customizable for each of our partners. So some of our clients use it in terms of their sports categories. So if they have hockey as well as soccer, we can use that, or we can use it in terms of location. So if you had specific events in the West versus specific events in the East. So you can kind of completely customize that to your needs.
Cool, amazing. And then as I input my start and end date, a question that's popping up for me from an event owner side is, should I be putting in the dates of my event or the dates that my teams will be traveling in to the event?
So we'll typically want to use the dates of the actual event because later on our contracting team can add on shoulder nights that teams would use for the typical check-in and check-out dates.
Gotcha. Amazing. And then registration dates. So I see that it automatically populates today's date, which is amazing. And then the end date. How do you walk clients through that one?
So this is part of a conversation. Typically, you want to set your registration date for when you're still accepting teams into your event. So the end date would be when your registration closes as well. So.
And then the go live date. I know we talk a lot about that. What does that mean for our clients?
Go live is a big day for all of us. So that's the day that we turn the events from what we call in draft mode into our live mode, and we're actually bringing teams in. Go live, we have all of our hotels ready to go for teams to book really easily. So that date is the day when everything is go live, all systems go.
Amazing, cool. And I know this is also a important date internally because this is how our contracting team knows to make sure they're working towards being prepared on the contracting side. So our account managers are always working very closely with our partners to understand when that date is. And we also know that in some cases it's fluid. We're always trying to get these events open sooner rather than later. And we know that's like the lifeline of these events is registration being open. So we know that our event owners this can be a fluid date for them as well.
Exactly. And that go live date, we want to make sure there's enough bandwidth between the go live date and the date of the actual event to allow enough time for teams to actually make their blocks and their reservations and be all teed up on the hotel side. So that go live date is really important for our internal teams and for the event organizers.
Amazing, awesome. Cool. So I've jumped now down into venue and location. So I see that I can bring in last year's venue very easily, which is super cool. At this point, let's say there was more venues. Am I adding them here, or is that happening later?
Yeah, so with a lot of my clients, the venue year over year will typically stay the same if you're playing at the same fields. So you'll bring in like the same venue if that's still applicable. If not, you can add your new venue location. That's your primary. But don't worry, later on down the road within the settings, you can add your additional venues and fields right in those settings really easily.
Sweet, amazing, amazing. Awesome. So we made it through step one. We're into step two, which is the kind of additional options or things that we can bring over. So starting with the structure and the divisions, how do we work through that?
Yeah, so with the structure and divisions, we can clone over anything from last year's event. So typically we'll clone over the sport type settings as well as our divisions, just to keep that structure the same. And then as well as any rates as well. If your rates have increased year over year, you can always adjust those and make those adjustmts within the event afterwards as well.
Cool, yeah. And with that mass edit tool in there, it makes it super quick and easy. So I know we're always talking our clients through using this to your advantage, using both of those to your advantage. And rather than building out all the divisions and rates year over year, which can be time consuming, there's a lot of different settings that need to be done in there. Having the base from last year and going in and just simply editing is a advantage and a time saver. So checking these on typically is something what we see. I'd say like 90% of the time when you're going through this flow, our clients will have those check boxes.
Exactly. Yep, I would agree.
Amazing. Cool. I know the registration section, this is a little bit of I call it the COVID legacy tool. I know we don't talk about that much anymore, but in a time where events were always changing, we were moving full registrations over from week to week. So it was kind of a cool thing to be pushed into. And now when I see this, again, it's very few and far between, but some of those sports that might get impacted by weather, and they're able to actually shift it from one weekend to the next weekend, and it's all the same teams. This is actually a really cool feature that does exist for our event owners. So not one that's used often, but in those few cases, you can take all your registrations, all the information, and move it from one event shell to another, which is pretty cool.
Exactly. Makes it really easy to do that. Agreed.
So, amazing. So on the flip, this one, 90% of the time these are checked. This one, maybe 1% of the time.
Yep.
Those are checked. And then the next three, how does that save us time?
Yeah, so the next three are options that if they apply to your event, you can select. So say if you had custom coupons, you could carry those over. If you had discounts built in your event last year, you could also carry those over. As well, custom questions. A lot of our event organizers use a survey or a question field. Yeah. So we can carry that over from year to year. And then as well, if you have any add-ons within the event as well, those can be carried over as well. So makes it really, really easy to kind of create the same event from year to year.
Yeah, amazing. And I think similar to when we talk divisions, especially custom questions and add-ons, those are other areas that take quite a bit of work to build out. Mm-hmm. And there might be micro tweaks needed inside those, but we're always advising, bring over your base. Bring over, 80% of your work being done, and then make those changes. Exactly. And so, again, this is a section that I think we would see 80 to 90% of the time. It's always checked on, and therefore you have a nice base that you're starting with when you finish cloning the event.
Yeah, like you built it last year, so let's make it really easy to use that setup for the next year.
100%. And a spoiler to another video that I've done is that if you do miss these check boxes, it's not the end of the world. There is that import feature that people can use.
Yes.
And so therefore, if you do miss these check boxes, then it's not all gone.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Everything is customizable.
Sweet. Awesome. So from here, we are ready to hit our next step in the process. And now this gets into projections, which, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of this process.
Yeah, this is something that we spend a lot of time talking about with our clients. What is the total number of teams that are coming to your event? And how many of those teams are travel teams? So we'll have, actually, the numbers above you, Brandon, you'll see pull in the metrics from last year's event.
Yeah.
So it's a really easy reference to provide. Are we going to grow our event next year? Are there going to be more travel teams? Are we going to let in more travel teams? Or are we going to scale it down? And these projections really indicate or help our procurement team secure the right inventory and the right amount of inventory across the board.
Awesome. Yeah, very good point. And that's something that we're so aware of, I think, from an EventConnect side with our hotel partnerships. We're fortunate that when we're working with hotels, the room blocks we're negotiating are courtesy blocks. And therefore there is very little risk from a financial side for our partners or us. I mean, no risk. However, with that comes a huge responsibility from a hotel relationship standpoint side of things. And that's where our team, I think, does a fantastic job of understanding the projections that the event owner sets in this process here and communicating that to the hotels and then being very responsible through that event lifecycle process of monitoring this number and the number that's true, that's active registrations. And so therefore, our event owners can do us a big help, big service in terms of setting this number as correct as possible. We know it's hard, and everyone's always pushing for as many travel teams as possible. But the closer we get, it does really go a long way in the hotel market and helping our team manage those relationships. And again, when we need more rooms, it's always going to be met with open arms and a yes when we're using this number to the best of our abilities.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Sweet. So that said, we're always open for growth. So we see 24 travel teams last year. We like that number being at 40. We're like, awesome. That's a great conversation for us to have. One of the things that always helps us too when we're changing that number or making it more year over year is what strategies are you doing to grow? Do you know that you've added another VIP club that's going to bring in 3 or 4 more teams? Or did your marketing strategy change? How has it evolved year over year, knowing that now we have a new target that's going to be more travel teams than last year? Amazing. That state of play distance, we talk a lot about that. That's how do we determine if a team is needing rooms, traveling or not? And we recognize that this might not be set association wide, right? This could be event dependent. For our event owners that work in several different markets, that could change based on the market they're in. It's very driven by like geographical things, right? Like I know we work with a client that because they're in the mountains, 50 miles driving around the mountains is a lot different than 50 miles driving, in a straight line. And so the state of play distance is going to change based on your geography for your event.
Exactly. And every event organizer can set that for each event. So that's always a conversation that we're having.
Sweet. Now, event owners might ask us, this rooms needed override and adjusted room nights, what that's about. So what do you advise us to put in there?
Amazing. So for rooms needed, we're going to take our total number of projected travel teams, and then we have some standard metrics of how many reservations per travel team there will be by sport type. So for example, we know a typical baseball team will probably bring 10 guests or members along. So we'll use those projections to get the total number of rooms that we need based on our number of travel teams.
Cool, amazing. And so in that case, if I did 40 times 10, I'm going to say I need 400 rooms here. And I know, let's say it's a 2-night stay, so I'm going to put in 800 room nights. And that would be our projection on the event and guiding our team there. Yeah. I would say to our event owners, that's something that we take on internally. So once we see you create that event, we're going to review that. Yeah. And therefore, as long as you put in that projected travel team number, we can do the rest of the work for you there.
Exactly. And we'll be able to review the metrics from last year's event as well. So if you exceeded that 10 reservation per travel team and you actually hit a 14, we can use those metrics and account for some growth as well. So we can override that number, so to speak, based on how successful that event was last year.
So great. Awesome. Classifications, again, a very more so internal thing for our EventConnect crew, and something that we do set. But if I'm an event owner that's eager to make sure that everything's completed, quickly walk me through this section.
Yeah, awesome. So this is a couple of key metrics that our hotel team uses to dictate the number of percentage of the projections that we're going to go ahead and get. So the event history will be how many years have this event been within the EventConnect ecosphere or system, whether it's a new event, established, or mature. Hotel Plus indicates how strict our state of play metrics. So a lot of my accounts that I work with enforce strict state of play, but some events are only standard, and then some are loose as well.
Amazing.
On the registration side here, so this is how the system on how we bring the teams into EventConnect. So we have a couple different metrics across the board. So sometimes we'll do manual uploads. Sometimes we have our APIs talking between company A to EventConnect as well, or some are fully integrated where the full registration happens within EventConnect itself.
Amazing, cool. So let's say this one we're fully integrated, so we're gonna do that. And then compression level, we always, even on the account side, we leave this alone.
Yeah.
That's actually gonna be set and driven by our hotels team once they get that RFP in the market.
Yeah.
But that is something that a good thing for event owners to be aware of. If they can have a pulse on what's going on in their own markets, and if there is a big event coming to town, being aware of that is such an advantage to us when we start the contracting phase. Number one thing is, if you're aware of it, then it should put the pressure on to get that in as soon as possible. So if you're used to maybe setting your schedule 6 months out, but you take a quick peek ahead 12 months out on the calendar and see something is coming into your area, maybe pushing the button on that one to make sure we get that in.
Exactly.
That's the number one thing. Number two is, if we are going to move forward with the event that's going to compete with some other events, and I've seen some crazy events to compete with, maybe the Super Bowl and Waste Management on the same weekend.
Yep.
In the area, then how does that impact our strategy as an event? Do we need to adjust our targets? Do we need to adjust our projections and expectations of that specific event for that year? Those are some of the things that, as event owners and account managers, we can be proactive on, that would help our procurement team.
Yep.
But they're going to find out really quickly once that RFP goes out. So they would then in turn set that compression level for us. And this is a way that all of us can stay on the same page of understanding, because of the compression level, maybe there needs to be a conversation on our targets and on our goals for that year. So I would say the third thing there too, the last thing to mention on that is, in that same conversation, we always can be working with our destination DMO office or CVB. They're usually very in tune with what's coming into the market.
Yeah.
And they also can go to the hotels and work with them and say, hey, look, it's awesome we have this big event coming in, but this event is a year-over-year annual event. It's not going anywhere. Can you do something to kind of please both events? So there's a lot of strategies. It's not the end of the world if there's a big event in town, but I think we need to be very strategic with that conversation as well.
Exactly. A lot of great partnerships and relationships and conversations we can have with everyone in the space, whether the CVBs, our partners, the hotels themselves, to really dictate how we go about with that strategy.
100%. Yeah. So, and I think that's a good reminder for our event owners going into 2026. There's a lot of exciting things happening across, North America. And so being in tune with those big events that are coming into your market and understanding how that might impact you is a good strategic thing to think about going into 2026 when we talk renewals.
Exactly.
Sweet. Well, we're almost there. One step to go. And so when we talk about kind of this step here, the note section.
Yeah, so the notes section is really anything that you want our team to know, our procurement team to know. Perhaps it's a big event in the area where we're competing for hotel inventory. If there's anything specific around why you made the projections that you did, you could include that here. Really include anything that might be helpful for us to execute on the numbers and the strategy that you provided in the previous steps, in terms of just making sure that we're going after the right inventory and the right numbers.
Amazing. And I would say for our event owners that do use this feature and clone their own events, they will do that, but then they will have a renewal call with our account manager and review everything, specifically the projections, talking through the strategic side of it, which I think is a very important thing to do. So as an event owner, please know, we love the event owners that are on there building the event. We think it's great. We know that they're actively trying to kind of get ahead of their business, but having that 30-minute call with your account manager to review the process and set the targets for the next year over a Zoom call is really important.
Yeah, and the notes section is a great place to also put any customer or guest feedback that you heard around specific hotels or areas of where they like to stay, because then we can really provide that information to our hotels team, just to make sure that we're getting better quality hotels where guests want to book.
Amazing. Awesome. So we've completed the cloning process, and as we can see on the screen here, everything's given us success. So everything came over from last year.
Good job,
which is
Brandon.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you, Heather. So we jump into Go Event now, and the kind of final step here for our event owners, or the homework item once they're through that, is that the check of everything and the customization. So one of the things we see the most is when we jump into event setup and go into customization, a lot of your messaging is going to have welcome to the 2025 event in this case. So we're always giving that friendly reminder. Make sure you go in and update the messaging. The logo section is probably, again, going to have last year's branding. So we want to make sure that gets updated. And that is a piece of the process that you don't see in the cloning stage. So it's kind of like step B after. Come into that customization and go through all of these tabs and make sure that it's dialed in for next year.
Agreed.
And then as we mentioned along the way, you might have those micro tweaks in those other areas that we did clone over. So under event setup, we see that in financials, divisions, custom questions, venues. Really, these are all the tabs that we did clone over, and those are the tabs you'll jump in. Again, just give it a look, make sure everything stayed the same, or if it didn't, make those micro changes to get you up and running for next year.
Perfect.
Sweet. Cool. Well, it's as simple as that. So now that our event owners have seen it, if you haven't utilized that cloning tool yet, please jump on there and take a look. And as always, if there's any questions or help needed, our amazing account management team is always there and ready to support.
Absolutely. So easy, so efficient to clone over your events. So give it a shot.
Sweet. Well, thanks for joining, Heather.
Thanks, Brandon.